Church. We're so glad that you could join us again for another fun week of just a series that we're going to put together. And what we're going to talk about this week is isolation, and how believers can be isolated within the church. And so as I thought about this subject, I thought a lot of times we see people who come to know Christ, they come to a relationship with Christ, and then they don't seem to get plugged into the church. They don't seem to get plugged into the Christian community that's around, and it really winds up setting them back and hurts them in several different ways. And so I know that God intends for us to be together. That's what He instructs. We're not to forsake the assembling of ourselves, and countless.
I was going to use that one.
Yeah, well, you're free to use it again because it's a good one that we are supposed to spend time together, and the church exists, and one of its main purposes is to build each other up, is to edify the bride of Christ and build each other up so that we can go forward and we can do the task. It's really hard to accomplish the things that we're supposed to accomplish and fulfill the Great Commission for Christ, and to worship Him and to live in our world and not get down and out if we're not plugged in and being built up by each other. And so I'm throwing this is just a blank question here, and it's for Evan and for me, for both of us to think of here, but you can think of this as well in your own life. But what are some ways that we see believers, it doesn't matter whether they're new believers, old believers, it doesn't make a difference. What are some ways that we see those believers isolating themselves in our world and maybe even within the church?
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind as you were talking about it was what I tend to do, which is go to work, but when I get home, that's my time, and I feel like I need that comfort to recharge or whatever. And so I imagine other people are like that as well. They go to work and they go home and then they come to church. They come to their one church service and then they go home and they're like, when you're at home, that time's for you. But Nikki and I were just talking about this earlier because we bought a house, and if everything works out, we'll be moving there soon, and it's part of a neighborhood. And when we lived in a neighborhood before, I had told her, like, I really want to be a good neighbor. I want to get out there and have gospel conversations, talk to my neighbors. And I never did. And because I tend to be this way, I tend to think that's my time, when really it's all the Lord's time, and it's all opportunities to, not saying that you still don't need some time to rest occasionally, but if you get in that pattern of, I need this comfort of just sitting at home and doing nothing, it can really affect you. Like, also, like, you won't come to church events, you won't have any ongoing fellowship with your church family. You just come to that one main gathering on Sunday morning, and you may not even talk to anyone. You'll come, you'll hear your sermon, you'll leave, and you're really missing out on extra benefits by doing that. I don't know if I rambled completely,
I think you hit most of the ways that I think we even see it, because when I look at it, you have different kinds of Christians, different kinds of churchgoers and believers. You have some that are at varying levels. Some show up for church and they walk in the door, they see the church service, the message, they sing the songs, and then when the doors are open, they hit the door and they're gone. Yeah. And then you don't hear from, nobody in the church sees from, hears from them again. And then you have varying levels all throughout the church of that, from that point on.
And I feel like I've been each one of those.
I agree.
Through all my life.
I know that I have been at some point or another somewhere on that scale, probably at every place on that scale, to where now, you and I, we work here, but it's still easy to see pastors even isolate themselves from the body, because we get so caught up in the job and making sure that we get each thing that we're supposed to get done. And so I was going to say that we see this as a trend in society, I actually think, because it seems like everybody wants to be able to have their own time, like you were talking about, have their own peace. And when they come home from work, they don't want to think about work anymore. They don't want to think about all the things that they have to do. They really want to just be able to focus on themselves or on their families, and maybe even on a close-knit group of friends. But even that can get kind of isolation-y, if that's it's not really a word, but we can make ourselves isolationist if we allow that to happen in our lives. And so I think that's super duper dangerous, not societal in that way. It's potentially bad for your brain in general, but I also think that it is very bad in a scriptural context. And so my next question to you, as we continue kind of rolling through this idea of what is isolationism, like how are we doing this to ourselves? My question is, what do you see as some of the negative consequences? I don't know that there are any good ones, so that's why I say negative, but what are the consequences of being an isolationist believer who doesn't plug into the church, who doesn't plug into the fellow believers around?